It's Platt, and today we try a Mexican beer influenced by Czechoslovakia. That's next to Platt's Beer of the Week. Alright, the particular beer we have today is Bohemia Pilsner. I want to thank Tosh T for suggesting this beer. Tosh is a regular viewer. Thanks for watching also. Bohemia is owned, and I hope I'm saying this right, Cuauhtémoc Montezuma Brewery in Mexico. The brewery itself in 2010 became a subsidiary of Heineken. Like a lot of regional and national breweries, in the last few years they've been bought up by the international conglomerates, and they are one. Besides brewing Bohemia, they also produce Dos Equis, Sol, Tecate, and Carta Blanca. Montezuma Brewery, they are the second largest brewer behind Grupo Modelo there in Mexico. A little background into the company. The original brewery is founded in 1890 by a family. It took a couple years to build the brewery, and their first beer did not come out until 1893. Now that first brew was Carta Blanca, and it immediately gained traction, and one of the ways it did was it won gold medal at the World's Fair in Chicago. Some of you younger folks might not remember, but one time World's Fairs were kind of big deals, and people would enter beer and spirits into the World's Fair, and getting a gold medal at the World's Fair was kind of a big deal. So great publicity for the brewery. Things started to take off. It wasn't until 1905 that they introduced the Bohemia Pilsner. Unfortunately for the brewery, it was right after this that hard times hit the brewery. In 1910, the brewery was seized in the Mexican Revolution. The founders of the breweries backed the wrong side and ended up having the brewery seized. The family ended up moving to Texas for a little while. During this, they did eventually get the brewery back. It took diplomats from the U.S. and Russia to intervene and help them get back the brewery. Now, I'm kind of curious as to why Russian diplomats were involved in the process, but luckily for us, they got the brewery back, and the rest, as they say, is history. They started to grow, add brands, started to build. Bohemia, or the Bohemia line, also has a couple of other beers. They've recently added a Bohemia Weisen. It's their take on a Belgian wheat beer. Comes in at 5.9% alcohol by volume. And they've also have Bohemia, I hope I'm saying this right, Oscura. It is their take on a Vienna lager. It's a little darker beer, a little maltier. Comes in at 4.7% alcohol by volume. So they've kind of expanded the line a little bit. I want to say a couple years ago they even tried their take on a classic German Weizen, but I don't think that beer gained traction. But again, that's another example of a beer produced in Mexico, but stylistically it's classically European. There's several of these breweries, we've talked about a couple of them, that do Czech PIlsner, Vienna lager style beers. Just like in the U.S., there was no native brewing culture in Mexico at the time. They had to import it like the U.S. did from Germany and Europe in general. Well, before we try the Bohemia Pilsner, let's check out the stats. Alright, so I thought I'd take today, since we're trying Bohemian Pilsner, I thought we'd talk about Bohemia a little bit, the place and the style of beer. Bohemia itself is a region in western Czechoslovakia. At one time it was its own kingdom, had its own king, whatever. It was part of the Holy Roman Empire. That eventually got rolled into the Austrian-Hungary Empire, and then when the Cold War came about, it became part of the Czech Republic, and now it's just part of regular old Czechoslovakia post-Cold War. The particular beer style, Bohemian Pilsner, has kind of an interesting story. There's a town in Bohemia called Pilsen, and the folks in Pilsen Did not like the beers that were being produced in their local breweries. This is where we're talking early to mid 1800s, and they wanted to improve that. They wanted to get closer to some of the German-style beers, so they ended up hiring a gentleman named Joseph Groll in around 1842 to produce a better beer. Well, he took some of the local resources. He took the water there had a low minerality. He took some of the local hops there, Saaz. One of the more popular home brewing hops is a Czech Saaz. So he took local Saaz, took the unique water, and ended up creating the Pilsner style beer, or what we think of as the modern day Pilsner style beer. What he ended up actually creating was a beer called Pilsner Urquell. Now in 1842 it was not called that. The beer itself did not get called Pilsner Urquell until 1898. But he basically ended up producing a very Czech style beer. He created something unique for Czechoslovakia and created the Czech style Pilsner that we've grown to love today, and that has even influenced brewers in Mexico. So, with that being said, enough about the Pilsner. Let's give the Pilsner a try. Alright, we've got a very light khaki half-finger head. Looks like we got plenty of bubbles. Color-wise, we're at a darker gold, almost a light copper, so there are some darker malts in there. Oh, and I want to mention that real quick. Something Groll also did too. At the time when he's creating this beer, there was advancements in the malting process, and you're able to get lighter colored malts, which means you could produce a lighter colored beer. A lot of beers back then, especially European style beers, just a little shade darker, more in the Vienna lager strain, just because that's how you malted grain back then. But because they had the ability to do a lighter toast, you're able to get a lighter colored beer. So that's something else Groll kind of helped bring about. Well, let's give this beer a try. Pretty smooth. Not quite the hop bite I get in like some true Czech and German Pilsners. They tend to have a little more of a noble hop bite. This does seem more kind of a North American style beer with the hops a little lighter. Plenty of maltness, hint of sweetness. Body wise, I'm going to say medium minus. This definitely is more mouth coating, more mouth feel than you would say the American light lagers, or even some of the lighter like this does have more of a mouth feel than some of even the Pilsners I've tried. Like I said, there appears just color wise, there's a little more darker malts. There seems to be a little more malt in it. Not quite as crisp as some of the classic European Pilsners. Still very drinkable. Still a very commercially acceptable type of beer. This is something you definitely get your Miller Lite friends to drink. Nice drinkable beer. Does not move the needle in any way. And again, the Pilsner and the light lager style beers are more consumption beers. They're not trying to push the boundaries. It's definitely not a style you'd see like a Dogfish Head or some of these brewers that really push the envelope, but commercially very acceptable type of beer. I think it works good with this time of year. I'm not a lemon in the Mexican beer kind of guy, even though I do understand for the kind of your skunkier lagers, sometimes that lemon works. But this, you won't need a lemon. And the best part is you've got a brown bottle, so that light's not coming into skunk. That's one thing I should say, compared to your typical clear bottle Mexican lager, you don't have that kind of skunk funk to it because of the brown bottle. Overall, decent beer. I'm not going to say it's all that, but we'll definitely do it in a pinch.
Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets you too know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or beers that you'd like me to try, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Well, until next time, bottoms up.